I'm Wordburglar, creator of Wordburglar Rhymes with Comics, and you're listening to the True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Wordburglar about his unique musical graphic novel, Wordburglar Rhymes with Comics, on Kickstarter. Please like and subscribe to this website by hitting the subscribe button, so you'll be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Toronto-based and Halifax native Canadian comic book creator Wordburglar is a rapper, voice actor for Transformers Botbots on Netflix, and last but no means least, a comic book creator. His humorous comic book The Last Paper Route was inspired by his teenage career as the Chronicle Herald newspaper carrier. His newest project is Wordburglar Rhymes with Comics on Kickstarter. The Wordburglar Rhymes with Comics graphic novel features 15 artists illustrating the songs as comics. Wordburglar has scripted and narrated the song lyrics so readers can listen and rhyme along to the inspired artistry. The graphic novel features a cavalcade of creative talent including Jason Loo, Troy Little, Kelly Tindall, Dave Howlett, Mike Holmes, Brenda Hickey, Kalman Andrasofsky, and an amazing cover supplied by Steve McNiven, Dave Howlett, and James White. So, without further ado, here's my chat with Wordburglar about his unique musical graphic novel, Wordburglar Rhymes with Comics, on Kickstarter. So, Wordburglar, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
John, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Love to geek out about comics.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We haven't chatted in a while. It's great to catch up. But before I get going with all the questions, I would like to know, what are you reading today?
What am I reading today? Well, I just picked up a new graphic novel from Noah Van Sciver. It's called Beat It Rufus. And I haven't even cracked it open, but I love Noah Van Sciver's comics. I really got into Fonte Bukowski, and he's done just a lot of really cool indie comics over the years that I've really enjoyed. So I've got that. You know, I'm reading all of the Skybound, Transformers, and G.I. Joe comics. I'm reading Grommets, which has been quite good, actually, from Rick Remender and Brian Posehn about skateboarders in the 80s and 90s. And, oh my gosh, there's always a giant stack. Jason Aaron's Ninja Turtles I've got on the go. Actually, I'm finally getting around to catching up on Group of Seven comics. Oh man, I'm just looking around at all the piles of comics around me. What are you reading? What's going on?
I don't have time to read. I'm so glad you do. But that's pretty much typical of most people I talk to is piles of comics. So if you can get around to it, more power to you. Good on you.
Oh yeah, I've got tons of stuff. Even it's funny, I've got stacks from Fan Expo last summer that I still haven't even been able to dig into because there's just piles. But it's nice, it's comforting to be surrounded by stacks of paper and comics. I like it.
Good quality stuff. That's for sure.
The more words I can burgle, the better, right? Although I pay for my comics, I don't burgle
That's right,
my
exactly. That's the bottom line. So we're here talking because you have a new project on the go called Wordburglar Rhymes with Comics. What if you could tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, if anyone's familiar with my music, I've always made rhymes about comics because I love comics. I love making rhymes. But this is the first time I've actually made rhymes with comics. And essentially, this is a lyrical graphic novel that I am working with 15 different comic book illustrators to bring 15 of my songs to life the way they were always meant to be seen as comics. Because, my songs are like sonic comics, right? But now you can see what I'm saying. And the rhymes of my songs are the only words you're going to see in these comics. So I've scripted out these individual short comics, and then you would read along as you listen to the songs. And guess what? You can get the soundtrack with the comic as well. So you can just put it on and play while you're flipping through the pages. And then you can pause it anytime because you're going to want to stop and take in all this art because we've got just this crazy anthology of my favorite artists, many of which are Canadian. I'm just like pumped to talk about it because I've been working on it in kind of secret for the last couple years. So the book is basically ready to go, and I'm launching the Kickstarter to help me just print it and get it across the finish line and hopefully get a bit more attention, because this is a project that I think is worthy of ears and eyeballs.
Yeah, it's very unique. You don't hear about it too often. I mean, typically I have asked creators when they're actually doing the creative process, whether it's writing or illustrating, what music do you have on the background? And sometimes they will refer to that reader saying, hey, when you're reading this page, put this music on. But this is actually glued together, so to speak. It makes more sense to have the book and the music running together at the same time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, there's been comics about music before. There are many out there, like, famously, like the Kiss comic I always think about with I used to work at Silver Snail and Strange Adventures comic shops, and we used to sell these Kiss comics that had, like, the blood was in the ink, and that was, like, a major selling. You may be familiar with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I had a feeling you would know that one. But, what I'm really setting out to do here is make, like, the Watchmen of comic books that rhyme. I'm raising the bar here. This is going to be like an awesome comic book, but also everything rhymes in it, and it's got the musical accompaniment. Like, I love comics, I love music. My goal is making sure this does not suck. And the artists have made, I mean, I'm being honest, man, like and the artists have just like blown me away, like, because I got to script the comics, right? Like I said, and then like I bounced off the ideas to all the different artists, and they came back with just like anything that I pitched them. They just came back with like, they took it to the next level. I don't know. I'm pumped, as someone who loves comics, like now being able to have this giant comic anthology of my favorite artists with my rhymes coming out of their characters. It's bananas.
I don't see how it cannot be successful with the amazing cavalcade of talent you have lined up. I wonder if you just maybe list off a few of these tremendous people that you've been working with.
Somehow, Steve McNiven has drawn the cover. Even just saying it out loud, I don't believe it. But Steve McNiven, probably doesn't need any introduction to your listeners. But I met Steve years ago, and he's just always been, from the day I met him, just a phenomenal guy. And I've always been a super fan of his work. And he just came through, like, I wanted a cover that embodied music and like, the excitement of this like mixtape style graphic novel combined with like just the dynamic superhero comic book cover that like jumps off the racks into your brain. And Steve just knocked it out of the park with like this Hulk homage where the Wordburglar character's got the boombox that's just crushing him down. And my friend James White, Signal Noise, who's just an incredible illustrator and colorist, just made these colors pop. Like it's just exploding with this neon, like, I don't know what you'd call it, like future retro sonic color combo, and Dave Howlett on the inks. And that's just the cover. So the inside, we've got Mike Holmes, who people may know from Wings of Fire, which is a scholastic comic book about dragons. It's really awesome. He's also worked on like Adventure Time and has a whole bunch of indie comics. Dave Howlett, who's got to be like the indie comics Canadian, like best kept rumor. Every comic Dave makes just blows me away. He did The Makers, which if you haven't read, you got to track down that series. It's 5-parter about like kind of like an alternate reality version of kind of Image Comics creators who get abducted by aliens to create their own universe. I don't think I spoiled it, but that book is awesome. Dave also just did a new comic called Disco Ripper, which is a one-shot about a movie Disco Ripper that never actually existed, but it's kind of like, here's the comic adaptation of this movie that never happened, and it's awesome. Brenda Hickey, who many people may know from My Little Pony, but Brenda is like so versatile, and her ability to draw so many wild characters and creatures is really on display here. So she just is flexing crazy muscles on the page in this one. Troy Little, who does the Cult of the Lamb comic, Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons, and he did this cool comic with Kevin Eastman from Ninja Turtles called Radically Rearranged Ronin Ragdolls. Yeah, I got that right. And Troy's stuff is just like jam packed with like jokes and action and adventure. So he's drawing the comic for my song, The Verbzerker, who is basically like a super mutant barbarian who has a pet dinosaur fish and lives in this world of like Masters of the Universe characters on acid. It's amazing. Jason Sandberg, who put out one of my favorite indie comics of all time called Jupiter, which many people may not know, but when I was working in a comic shop in the early 2000s, this book came across the counter and I was obsessed with it. And I actually tried to hunt him down for years. And then we finally met and just totally connected. And Jason's done some work in here, which is phenomenal. Look up Jupiter. That comic will blow your mind. If you can find it, it's a hard one to hunt down. Kelly Tindall from Strangebeard, who is like the biggest Inhumanoids fan I've ever met other than myself. So I have a song about Inhumanoids, which is this terrifying horror cartoon from the 80s that like completely exploded my brain. Kelly like knew everything I was talking about when we were nerding out about Inhumanoids. I'm like, dude, you have to draw this song. Kalman Andrasofsky, again, Captain Canuck, X-23. Kalman's got a great Sega comic in here. Oh my gosh, I'm naming so many people. Hot Rod of the Cybertronic Spree. I could just like ramble on about the artists on this book. Jason Loo, of course, who many people know from Pitiful Human Lizard and now all of his awesome work at Marvel. I know Jason like way back because we're big like Star Wars and G.I. Joe fans. And we used to know each other from like my days working at the Silver Snail on Queen West. And, you know, Jason, I pitched him this idea for my song Tauntaun, which is about the Tauntaun, you know, those like base kangaroos from Star Wars.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a Tauntaun who... I figured you'd know, John. You're the Tehran John, right? Tehran John? There you go.
Yeah. Shh, don't tell anyone.
Anyways, it's like a Star Wars character in Toronto. So I was like, Jason, like this comic is made for you. And oh man, he just crushed it, like putting in all these amazing Toronto Easter eggs. Because yeah, if you've seen Pitiful Human Lizard, you know he can draw like Mississauga to Scarborough to Vaughan, like wherever, and he's just crushing it. Again, you can tell I'm like super excited about this comic.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's a tremendous lineup you've got there. It's just
that's
amazing.
Not even everybody, yeah, but yeah. But yeah.
Well, that's great that you've got the people on board, but tell me about the creation process. Did it involve a lot of juggling? Like, how did you manage the whole thing?
Yeah, well, that's why it's taken so long behind the scenes because, first of all, like, I'm not Marvel, I'm not DC, I'm not, like, really, like, hitting people over the head with deadlines or anything. I wanted people to create the work that they were happy with on the schedule that worked for them, and that's why I've held back on announcing this project or launching a Kickstarter until I've got all the artwork, because I wanted people to just be able to create on their own time. Like I took the time to craft every script and I sent them and worked with each artist, like emailing back and forth or chatting on the phone and figuring it all out, and then just let the art kind of trickle in. And some people crank the stuff out really fast and it's phenomenal. And then other people, of course, you know, they've got other projects they're working on. It took some time. You know, I was in a position where I was like, yeah, no one knows this comic is coming. There's no like deadline. Like I don't have a publisher on my case saying, Wordburglar, you got to get this out by, you know, December 2024 or it's not happening. So it's definitely been a big lesson in project management, but I'm used to working with a whole bunch of different artists on all my albums, from the music producers and DJs to the manufacturers and mixers and masters. Like every project I put out, whether it's a music or comic book project, I'm always collaborating with other artists. And I know when I'm an artist, like, you know, you can't rush me. Like I know when something's ready and when I want to put it out. That's what's great about then just having the thing done. And then you can say, all right, we're good to go. Like when we make our Kickstarter goal, I'm just calling the printer and like we're off to the races because I want to launch this at Fan Expo Toronto this summer. So if you back the Kickstarter, you can pick it up locally at Fan Expo, or there's going to be some other like Toronto locations you can pick it up at, or you can just wait a bit longer and you know, I'll mail it to you. But,
nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned this is on Kickstarter. I'd like to know, what is the one benefit that Kickstarter provides you that you can't find anywhere else?
Well, I've backed a lot of campaigns on Kickstarter, and I really like the global reach. I'm not with a publisher. This is just me, and there's already an audience on Kickstarter for comics. So if you can make an exciting project, there's potential there for you to reach people across the globe. I've already, like with music, I've been my own independent label for years, and I've built up a pretty good reach, I guess, around the world with my records and stuff. And, with my comics as well. I do The Last Paper Route and Snake Horse Pizza. So just being able to find like a whole different audience really appeals to me. And also, like, we've put up a lot of time and money and effort already to get this comic to where it is. Getting that Kickstarter going to help me cover the printing costs and all that stuff, because we're going to be doing CDs. There's going to be a cassette tape stretch goal. We've got all kinds of fun stuff potentially. But yeah, I'm hoping that with the Kickstarter, it can get some new eyeballs on it, because I think it's a great introduction. If you've never heard of me, which is, most of the world have not heard of Wordburglar.
How's that possible? No,
only the very cool people like yourself, John.
Oh, okay.
There's a very small, there's the cool people. We got a band together. I'm hoping this is like a really good introduction. Like, there's no previous experience with Wordburglar necessary. You could just get this book, you get the intro to my 15 songs that are like some of my personal favorites, and the themes are like science fiction, horror, thriller, just like comic books, humor, suspense. It's got everything. Like, it's an anthology, and the range of artwork in the book is just like a really great mixtape. You're mixing it up with all these different styles.
Nice. Now, Kickstarter typically offers incentives, and I think you hinted at something like a cassette, but can you run through some of the incentives that people can get when they back your book?
Yeah, so the first big stretch goal that I'm hoping we can get to, right now the book is planned at a normal, like regular American comic book size, but I love the Marvel oversized format, which is like same like kind of like scale as a normal comic, but bigger, like a bigger scale, like 7.5 by 11. So it's like slightly bigger, because this art I think deserves to be on bigger pages, and then you can read it without your glasses on. It's just the words are a little bigger. So that's the first stretch goal, to do like an oversized version of the book, which would be like, if you back the book and we reach that goal, you're getting it in the oversized. Like, that's the format we're going to do. Then there is a cassette tape stretch goal. There's going to be CDs. There's stickers, magnets. We've got record and book tote bags, t-shirts. There's all kinds of fun stuff. We've got add-ons and stretch-ons. I'm just rambling. I feel like Stan Lee on 2 Pots of Coffee. No. Just be like, blah, blah, blah.
Lots of stretch goals, it sounds like. Yeah, so it sounds like you got everything under control. And
I hope so. It's
lots
crazy.
Of good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, you've been working on this for a while. Is it fair to ask what's next for you? Do you have any other projects you can talk about?
Yeah, well, I've got another comic book that's in the works. I'm developing like a children's graphic novel thing that I'm working on. Can't talk too much about that, but that's pretty exciting. I'm working with some people in the industry on that, which is going to be really cool. I've got a new album coming out, working on as well, called Revenge of Cobra Island, which is a sequel to an album I put out about over 10 years ago called Welcome to Cobra Island, which is inspired by like my love of G.I. Joe and comic books. So that's really fun. I've got my eyes on a few projects I want to do. Like, I would love to make, when this comic comes out, I would love to make this, maybe like a biannual thing, like every 2 years be able to put out another anthology like this. I had so much fun creating this book, and I've already got other creators messaging me being like, oh, can I get involved with this? And I was like, oh, it's already done. But, if we do another one, I would love to have you on board. So yeah, hopefully this will be the first in a series of Wordburglar Rhymes with Comics.
That's very cool. So with everything you have on the go, where can people find you online and buy your books?
Best place to find me, wordburglar.com. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. Type in Wordburglar, one word, like Batman, and you'll find me. And that's AR and not ER. People spell burglar weird. Burger, I've seen bugler. It's burglar, Burglar. I can be found there, and wordburglar.bandcamp.com. My music's up there. I'm also on like Spotify if you want to hear some of my music, and my comics are on Gumroad or at a cool comic shop near you, like Strange Adventures in Halifax. I always want to send people there. It's my favorite comic shop in the country.
Very nice. Well, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you want to get across in this interview?
I guess the big thing is like I love comics, and I love Canadian comics so much. It's so great. Like we have such an incredible, like the comic history in Canada is huge. Of course there's like Joe Shuster and Hal Foster, but I think of like Jeff Lemire and Stuart Immonen or Ho Che Anderson. I don't know, Brian Lee O'Malley, Carl Kerschel. Like I could go on and on about all these incredible Canadian creators, Chester Brown and like Seth. Like, there's so much great Canadian comic talent out there. I mean, there's thousands, millions probably. And, any chance to like help more people discover what great comics we have in Canada. Like people didn't know, like Brenda works on My Little Pony. Mike Holmes is on Wings of Fire. And that comic is like hugely successful. And Mike's a Canadian guy, Steve McNiven, like all these people. It's just really exciting to see this Canadian industry thriving. And also, if anyone has Seth's phone number, like I would love, like Wimbledon Green is one of my favorite Canadian comics of all time. And that book is a masterpiece. On top of like Clyde fans and all that stuff too. Like I'm a huge Seth fan. So if I could collab with Seth, I realize knowing him, it might be a hard sell, but I think if you get me in a room with Seth, I could pitch him something that would work. But yeah, that's my next thing, trying to get Seth to do a comic with me.
Thanks to Wordburglar for the chat. You can discover more about Wordburglar on Instagram at instagram.com/thewordburglar. And thank you for tuning into the True North Country Comics podcast. I invite you to visit the True North Country Comics website to listen to more conversations and discover even more about creators' insight on making comic books and graphic novels. I encourage you to subscribe via the website so you'll be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. You can follow along True North Country Comics on most social media sites, and you're encouraged to send any and all feedback to John at truenorthcountrycomics.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2025.